If you need a super wide-angle lens for your APS-C camera, then the Laowa 8-16mm f3.5-5 might well be the answer. This is a manual focus lens for mirrorless APS-C cameras, and in this video I'll be reviewing the Sony E-mount version. Now this lens costs $550, which is a lot for a manual focus lens, but for a zoom lens with the widest viewing angle of 8mm, there's nothing else quite like it on the market. The 8-16mm focal range is the full-frame equivalent of around 12-24mm, which is impressively wide for an APS-C lens. Now Venus Optics, the company behind Laowa, has sent me this lens, but has no input on the final video, and I will be reviewing it honestly. Now the lens comes presented and packaged in a white box, and the lens is firmly secured in the foam. It feels reasonably premium, and the lens comes packaged with the usual documentation and warranty information. The lens comes with metal lens hood, which has a filter thread of 86mm. However, there is no filter thread on the lens itself without using the lens hood. The lens has a metal lens cap, and the lens itself is made from plastic and metal, but has no weather sealing. As it's a manual lens, there are no electronic components on the back of the lens. The lens body has 3 rings on it. The one nearest the body is the aperture ring, which goes from f16 to f3.5. Though remember, when you're zoomed all the way out to 16mm, the widest aperture is f5. It also has a switch to either have smooth or notched selection on the aperture ring, which is quite a nice touch. The middle ring is the zoom ring, for zooming from 8mm all the way to 16mm. It's worth noting that this is an internal zoom lens, so the barrel doesn't extend from the end of the lens, which does feel like quite a premium feature, as it means the weight doesn't shift when zooming in and out with the lens. Quite useful if you're using on a gimbal or some other balanced situation. The largest ring is of course the focus ring, which has a slightly looser travel than the zoom ring, but is still quite smooth. Now let's talk about the image quality of this lens. It is nice and sharp in the centre of images, especially at its widest aperture of f3.5, and is really only in the corners where the images start to get a little blurry. And you may also find a little chromatic aberration in the corners of images. Overall, the sharpness is okay, especially at 8mm. It does get a little softer when zoomed out to 16mm. You will find some vignetting and darkening around the edges of your shots, but to be honest, nothing too bad, and if you're not looking for it, you probably wouldn't have noticed. Now, if you're enjoying this review, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more lens and camera reviews. Now let's talk about video quality with this lens. Well, for this whole video that you've been watching, I've been using the Laowa 18-16mm to record this whole video. You may be able to tell that it's a little bit more zoomed out than it normally would be, because I would normally use a 23mm lens. I do have this zoomed all the way into 16mm, which shows how wide this is. I'll quickly zoom all the way out now to 8mm, where you can really see quite how wide 8mm is. For all the video clips in this video, I have used the lens paired with the Sony ZV-E10 camera. For some of the photography, I've also used the Sony A6000. But for this in-studio shot, you can see the wide angle makes for this type of small room, so you can fit plenty in your shot. You just need to be careful with that manual focus, because any movement could knock your entire shot out of focus, and obviously if I move forward or put something in front of the lens, it isn't going to find focus on that. And talking of focusing, it is quite easy on this lens. The focus ring is accurate and easy to operate, meaning finding focus, even when changing zoom range, is perfectly achievable. Now let's talk about the low light performance with this lens. And unfortunately, it isn't a great performer, as you could probably guess from that narrow maximum aperture. It means that this lens is very dark. And there can also be a lot of glare on bright lights in dark situations, so really not a great lens for nighttime shooting. Now getting bokeh, which is out of focus, backgrounds with this lens isn't that easy with that narrow maximum aperture. But if you get close enough to your subject, then the bokeh is very swirly and hazy, which does give quite a cool artistic effect. But it's just not that easily achievable, so you're not going to be able to get that kind of effect for portraits, for example. Where this lens excels is utilizing its super wide focal range. It suits itself really well to landscape photography, and for me it would also be an ideal choice for real estate and estate agent photography for capturing a whole room in a single shot. So overall, the Laowa 8-16mm is a pretty unique lens. Its super wide shooting angle is its big selling point, and the big surprise for me was how sharp it was, especially at that widest focal range of 8mm. Now, of course, this lens is a little on the pricey side, and to be honest, I would really be hoping for an autofocus lens for that price. But it is a unique lens in the APS-C space to have zoom, especially at such a wide focal range. So if you're looking for a compact zoom lens, which is about as wide as you can get on APS-C cameras, then the Laowa 8-16mm is well worth taking a look at. And if you like the look of this lens, I'll leave a link in the description to pick one up. Do you use a different super wide APS-C lens? Let me know which one in the comments. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video, as it helps me out a lot. But until next time, see ya.